I wanted to talk a little bit about emotional contagion, social contagion, and weaponized anthropology. Any of those terms you could just start typing into Google or YouTube and have yourself a field day because they are incredibly interesting and incredibly revealing about the, as Edward Snowden said, architecture of oppression that is being honed day after day and developed and deployed against us, you and me. And if you're not even aware that there's such a thing, well, you might just get blown with the wind like most people do, but don't doubt that there is science being used against you, against your mind, against your mood, trying to mold you, or trying to drive you into whatever direction they want. So this is about a military program called the Minerva Initiative. Definitely Google that. And it's basically a well-funded program where the military figures out how to study social network interaction like your Facebook news feed or your Twitter feed and how it influences you. So, first of all, obviously they're spying on you. There's no other way to do that en masse. And then they're taking that data and they're applying algorithms to it. And then they're deliberately messing with your feeds to see if they can move you in a certain direction or at least broadly move the herd in a certain direction to the point where they can use predictive analytics to predict the outcomes. It's some real science fiction, mind warp psyop stuff. These guys want to get to the point where they can practically predict the future. They already do it with marketing. Target can predict what your next purchase is. Amazon can predict your purchase, what your next purchase is. So they say, anyway. But they're collecting all kinds of data, even where your mouse hovers. Whether or not you click on anything, does your mouse hover here? They've got stuff. They're tracking your eyes. Did your eyes linger a little too long on that guy's six-pack or whatever? Maybe you're a little bit gay. Maybe we should, push that on you and see what happens. It's sick. Anyway, I realize that guy doesn't have a six-pack, but you know what I mean. This is just a highlight of an excerpt from what I'm talking about here. The project will determine the critical mass of social contagions by studying their digital traces. In the cases of the 2011 Egyptian revolution, remember that? The Facebook revolution? Some guy named his kid Facebook. Look how that worked out for the people. The 2011 Russian Duma elections, another one of these fake color revolutions. The 2012 Nigerian fuel subsidy crisis, whatever that was. And the 2013 Ghazi Park protests in Turkey. And you can be sure a whole lot of other things. Basically, this is what they use to figure out how to divide and conquer people. This is why you've got people giving Nazi salutes in Ukraine and Greece and soccer matches all over Europe because they've figured out a way to divide people by just amping up the political fault lines, putting so much stress on the political fault lines that it's predictable to see what would happen. And they're doing that here amongst the races. And that's all Black Lives Matter is just a tool to amplify already known societal fault lines and stress them until they fracture. And that's what they're going for. I don't know why. These are some sick puppies. Anyway, Twitter posts and conversations will be examined to identify individuals mobilized in a social contagion and when they become mobilized. In other words, when did you really get pissed off, and when did a nagging sensation become a thought and then become a Facebook post, and then when did you start going, yeah, fuck Trump, Trump's Hitler, or fuck Obama? When did you start doing that? Another project awarded to University of Washington seeks to uncover the conditions under which political movements aimed at large-scale and political economic change originate. They're swinging for the fences, people. That's all I can say. And there's a lot. This is a very good article right here. The Guardian, Minerva Initiative. From the outset, Minerva program was slated to provide over $75 million in 5 years social and behavioral science research. Now, everybody thinks all the money that our government spends is to go to the moon, to go to Mars, whatever. I don't think so. It's spent on studying us and figuring out how to game the system so that they can take advantage of us, manipulate us, neutralize any dissent or potential threat from us, and if necessary, manufacture consent from us to the point where they can get us to believe anything they want. An internal Minerva staff referenced 2012 master's dissertation reveals that the program is geared toward producing quick results that are directly applicable to field operations. Now, it says radical Muslim, whatever. It's about us. And the DoD's Human, Social, Cultural, and Behavioral Modeling Program. And you thought they were just marching around the barracks, singing hoorah, songs. No. That's not what's going on. Now here we get to the weaponized anthropology. Again, just a cool term. Just start thinking about it, typing it in. It's how do they get inside a culture and start distorting it, pushing it towards extremes, using counterintelligence methods and means, and then ultimately just taking it over, bastardizing it, turning it into something it's not, until the point that it's just unrecognizable, and it just becomes, everyone in that culture becomes just another slave to the state. Anyway, Minerva is farming out the piecework of empire in ways that can allow individuals to disassociate their individual contributions. So in other words, all these little compartmentalized groups are helping to build this incredible architecture of oppression and manipulation. Professor Price previously exposed how the Pentagon's Human Terrain Systems program, designed to embed social scientists in military field operations, routinely conducted training scenarios set in regions within the United States. So, there you go. They say it's Muslim terrorist radicals, but yet they are even saying routinely conducted training scenarios set in regions within the United States. So, it's us that they're worried about, trust me. Price reported that the human terrain systems training scenarios adapted counterinsurgency from Afghanistan and Iraq to domestic situations. So, in other words, they took the lessons they learned in Afghanistan and Iraq, and just think of how lovely those places are, and they applied it to domestic situations. In the USA, where the local population was seen from the military perspective as threatening the established balance of power and influence and challenging law and order. Yeah. That doesn't sound good, does it? Now here we go to the actual Minerva Initiative page itself. .mil. These are just some of the topics. It's an overview. There's a lot of stuff here you can read. Topics of interest include the development and analysis of general frameworks for escalation dynamics and deterrence theory across different domains, actor types, and issue areas. In other words, how can we keep people from rising up? Domestic perspectives of escalation and the internal breaking point for aggression. What is your line in the sand? And they'll just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it until they find out, and that'll be a little test. And they'll get the data that they need on that test. They'll create algorithms. They'll create algorithms for people, just like your credit score, or your Zillow estimate of your house value. Just takes a bunch of data points and creates an algorithmic value, and they're going to start doing that with people, you and me, and it's going to be a threat algorithm. And at what point, under what conditions, does this person go from green to red? And when you go to red, I'm sure you don't want to know what happens, because who knows, but it's not going to be good. And this is about experimental evidence of a massive scale emotional contagion through social networks. There's a million things I could think of. The Trump is Hitler memes. When Robin Williams committed suicide or was killed or whatever, there was this raging emotional contagion in Facebook and Twitter, and you just kind of, that's all there is anymore. There's no reason, just this untethered emotional contagion. Anyway, this is an experiment that shows basically that yes, people can easily pick up emotional states from other people without ever seeing them or talking to them in person, just based on a Facebook post. And it's massive in scale, and it's hyper fast. Everything is just light speed, and it's scary. And you can look it up yourself. I'm not going to read it all for you, but you know it's true if you just think about it yourself. It also says that you can, by reducing the amount of emotional content in the newsfeed, when positive expressions were reduced, people produced fewer positive posts and more negative posts. When negative expressions were reduced, the opposite pattern occurred. So in other words, they can affect your happiness or sadness just based on what is in your Facebook newsfeed. That is scary. And if you're not aware of it, it can really mess you up. And just check out weaponized anthropology. If those words hurt your brain, just think of gangster rap, okay? This is weaponized anthropology. How can we hijack a culture and steer it off a cliff so that people who could potentially be a threat if they ever got organized and applied themselves and worked together, they could really be a threat? How can we neutralize that before it even happens? Well, they take certain tendencies and then they just exaggerate them until the whole thing becomes unrecognizable caricature of itself. Anyway, that's that. Thanks a lot.